Lesson 7-9, Addition and Subtraction Equations with Fractions. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to solve addition and subtraction equations involving fractions. Make sure you have a piece of paper and pencil ready so you can take notes and work right along with me. Let's take a look at the first problem. Jackie bought some almonds and an 1/8 pound of cashews. She bought 7/8 pounds of nuts in all. How many pounds of almonds did she buy? So we need to find how many pounds of almonds, which will be A, that she bought. So we'll figure that out using the equation A for almonds plus we know she bought an 1/8 pound of cashews, and both of those added together equals 7/8 of a pound. So remember, we're going to solve equations with fractions the same way as we solved our equations with whole numbers. So we want to get this A all by itself over here. So in order to do that, we need to do the same thing, remember, to both sides in order to keep this equal. So I'm going to need to subtract 1/8 from both sides. Minus 1/8. I'm going to put my line down the middle to keep it even. Minus 1/8. So now I have A is the only thing left over here. A equals 7/8 minus 1/8 equals 6/8 of a pound. Now they're going to always want us to simplify things. So instead of 6/8, we can divide that both by 2 and we get 3/4 of a pound. We can check that by plugging it right back into the equation. I'm going to use 6/8 instead of the 3/4 so that I have a common denominator. So let's see what that looks like. 1/8 plus 6/8 equals 1 plus 6 equals 7/8, and that's what we have. 7/8 and 7/8. So this would be our final answer. So let's take a look at this example. We have 5/8 plus k equals 3 1/8. So remember, we want to get this variable all by itself on one side so we can see what it equals over on this side. So we're going to put the line down the middle just to make sure that what I do, that helps me remember whatever I do to this side, I have to do to this side. And then it helps keep my work separated also. So I have a positive 5/8 over here, so I need to subtract that to get rid of it. So I'm going to subtract 5/8 from this side as well as this side, because remember, I have to do the same thing to both sides in order to keep it balanced. So all that I'm left with on my left side is this k equals. So now let's take a look over here at the right side. I have 3 1/8 minus 5/8. Well, the good news is they have the common denominator, but I have 1 minus 5. So I'm going to need to borrow in order to do my subtraction. So I'm going to do that right over here. So now that I have 2, and I borrowed that whole one, so I'm going to use 8/8 plus 8/8. 8 plus 1 is 9/8 minus this 5/8. Now I can do that. So I have 9 minus 5 is 4/8, 2. K equals 2 4/8, but I need to go ahead and reduce that. So I can divide these both by 4. So I have 2, and then 4 divided by 4 equals 1. 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So my final answer is 2 1/2. I want you to try this one on your own. H minus 1 5/8 equals 3 1/8. So pause the video and come back and check your work. So as I work through this one, I see I have to get this h alone. So I'm going to add 1 5/8 to this side to cancel that out. So I add 1 5/8 to this side. So all that I'm left with over here is h equals. So now since I'm adding, my denominators are the same and it doesn't matter if one is smaller than the other. So 1 plus 5 equals 6/8. And then I add my whole numbers. 3 plus 1 equals 4. 4 and 6/8, but I need to reduce that. So h will equal 4. I can divide 6 and 8 both by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 8 divided by 2, or I'm sorry, yeah, 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So 4 and 3/4 would be the answer in simplest form. I hope that's what you were able to get also. Sometimes we'll see a problem where we're subtracting the variable. So it looks like this, minus then the variable. If I were just to do the opposite like I had been, I'd be left with a negative variable. There's one way that you can do in order to fix that problem would be if you add a variable to both sides. So that would be, I'm going to add a k to this side, plus k, and plus k. Then I draw my line. So I have k minus k, that equals 0. So all that I'm left with over on this left side would be 6/7 equals 2/7 plus k. That way I make sure that I have a positive variable. So now I need to get this k by itself by subtracting 2/7. So now I go through and I will subtract 2/7 from both sides, 2/7. That gets rid of it, so all that I'm left with is k, minus 2/7 on this side. 6 minus 2 equals 4/7. So the answer for this one would be 4/7. K equals 4/7. I want you to try this one on your own. 7/9 minus y equals 2/9, and then come back and check your work against mine. For this one, I see that I have a negative, or I'm subtracting the variable. I don't want to be left with a negative at the end, so I'm going to do where I add the variable to both sides, plus y and plus y. Y minus y equals 0, so that cancels it out, so I'm just left with 7/9 on this side equals 2/9 plus y. Now I'm going to need to subtract the 2/9 to get the y by itself. So I have y equals, and I subtract 2/9 from this side as well. Keep it balanced. 7 minus 2 is 5. Bring down my my denominator, and I have 5/9. 5/9 equals y. Make sure you re-watch any part of this lesson that you need to before finishing today's work.